Greetings, Judah. DFG here, Gideon's Flight. Hey guys, I want to take a little time this morning to share some thoughts around, the latest horrific event committed against our people, Israel. And if you're not sure what I'm speaking to, I'm talking about what happened in Buffalo just a couple of days ago. So I think that would have been, depending on when you see this particular message, I would think that would have been like April 14th, maybe, right? Today's the 18th, 17th, 16th. Yeah, April 14th. And my thoughts around that is going to be a little bit different than what you may have heard. And I believe that's okay. And I do believe that I have the permission of Yahuwah, to bring this forward. Even Yahushua, I don't think, would disagree. Because I'm going to share with you all today, what our book talks to us about in relationship to these days that we're living in. If you recall, Yahushua told us that if it was possible in the last days, this is Matthew chapter 24, Yahushua warned us. He said, if it was possible, no flesh would be saved. And he was talking about our people. And I need to call that out because, when you start looking at, all of these Israelites out here who are praying, and asking, the Father to come in and intercede on our behalf, you have to be careful and rightly dividing Yah's word. Should we pray and ask for deliverance? Without question. Solomon reminded us of that in 2 Chronicles 7:14 when he said, if my people which are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, talking about Yah's face, then would he hear from heaven and heal our land. So it's no question that prayer changes things. But in addition to prayer, Yah has empowered us as well, as he told Moses. Have you ever considered, when he talked to Moses in Mount Arafat, he could have very easily told Moses, not Arafat, Sinai. He could have easily told Moses, don't worry about this. I got this. I'm going to go to Pharaoh, myself personally, or I'm going to do something to Pharaoh personally, change his mind, change his heart, change the Egyptian's heart. I'm going to handle all of that. You just remember to pray. But that's not what happened. What actually happened is that he told Moses, I'm sending you in the physical form. And this is what you're going to say. And more importantly, this is what you're going to do. I'm going to be with you, but this is what you're going to do. And if you remember, Moses, had a lot of hesitancy, in his heart about that. Because he saw himself as a fugitive on the run. And he was afraid of Pharaoh. He felt like, if he went back there, without an army, he would be killed. And so he said, okay, if you're sending me, talking about Moses, the conversation with Pharaoh, and I'm going somewhere with this, just hang in. He said, well, what, if I'm going to go, then are you going to supply me with the tools that I'm going to need to deliver your people? And y'all looked at Moses and said, well, what do you have in your hand? Yeah. And Moses had a rod in his hand. He said, okay, then use that which is in your hand. See, my message to my brothers and sisters today, there comes a time that we have to use what's in our hand along with the promises of Elohim on how to properly execute what we have in our hands. That's an easier way to say it. Yeah, prayer is important. But brothers and sisters, I'm here to tell you this morning, if all we intend to do is pray and wait, then there are many, many, many of you mothers and fathers out there, daughters and sons, are going to see a lot of your children slaughtered. Because see, our enemy is not over there praying to anybody. Our enemy is empowered within themselves. The God of this world has empowered them. And long ago, and pretty much told them that anyone that calls upon the name of Yahuwah, you kill them. And I know you might say, well, where's that, Brother DFG? Well, go back and read John 10 and 10. Yahushua warned us that the thief comes to do what? The thief is who? That is the wicked seed. Kill, steal, and destroy. When Yahushua, in John chapter 8, the Basura of John chapter 8, when he confronted those Sadducees, Pharisees, he told them that their father was the devil and he was alive from the beginning and a murderer. Their father. So when you look at this little devil, the seed of Satan, this 18-year-old seed of Satan, who went into Buffalo, and targeted elderly women and men, killing 13 of them. If you think for 1 second that prayer and prayer alone is going to put a stop to that, then you don't believe the word. Or you don't. I'll take that back. If you believe prayer in and of itself is going to change that situation, then you still need to grow in the word. There are key things in the word that you're missing. Because there is a place in our book. That's why we study the scriptures, brothers and sisters. That's why we study the Torah, brothers and sisters. To have a proper understanding. Hosea, the prophet, said, y'all people perish for a lack of what? Knowledge, or a lack of understanding. Perish means they die. They are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And at some point, if let's say it this way, if all it was about is corporate prayer, then all this other stuff in the book would be non-void. In other words, it would not be necessary. We might as well just forget about all of this. Why do you think our oppressors, when they enslaved us, gave us a slave narrative Bible? Primary New Testament, be clear here. Authorized by the Pope at the Council of Nicaea, 325, around about that time, AD. Why do you think they customized their own scripture? Created their own narratives and said, now here, you go bring that to those Israelites over there, and you tell them either they obey this or we're going to slaughter them. And that's exactly what they did. Remember the Christian slave codes from, I want to say, 1721? We studied that not long ago. That if you were Israelite, they called Jew, or a Negro, that you had one or two choices. You were either to get out of their country or be under their control. In other words, be enslaved by them. Talking about the seed of Satan. Let me be clear. The white people holistically. And interestingly enough, did not that 18-year-old in his manifesto say the exact same thing? Either they get out of this country, so-called blacks, or they fall back under our control. Did he not say the exact same thing? History repeats itself. Solomon in Ecclesiastes told us there was nothing new under the sun. Nothing. And if we were to fight for our liberation back then, avenge ourselves against our enemies back then, with the knowledge of who we are and the blessings of Yah backing us up, then you tell me what changed outside of a slave narrative message in the New Testament that told us to be docile, told our women to be prayerful and our men to be impotent. Woman, you control that nigger boy of yours, or you see what I did, or see what we talked about in this Willie Lynch letter, where we're going to take and rip him apart right in front of your face. We're going to assault his body by raping him in his anus right in front of your face. Woman, you either control this nigger boy or you're going to see him die. Nothing's changed. Teach your sons, teach your men to be emasculated and feminized. You stay in control of him, woman. And you can weep and wail all you want. We're good with that. But he better not ever attempt to stand up for himself, stand up for you, or stand up for his nation. And that's what's going on right now. You see, your preacher ain't going to tell you, Jamal Bryant ain't going to preach that. He's going to tell you about Kevin Samuels and his wickedness. But he's not going to tell you that you're an Israelite and that you need to stand on the word. Oh, yeah, he'll preach you some New Testament epistle letters and tell you, thus says, God and Jesus. Or Jesus is God. Whatever one of the lies they tell. But he's not going to teach you that you're an Israelite. And that you're the people of the book. And that these scriptures and these laws were written for your benefit so that you would know how to overcome your oppressors in this world and in the world to come. Because see what happens when we get caught up in so-called just pray, then we become guilty of just standing around again and waiting for Elohim to do for us what he has already empowered us to do for ourselves. Fighting back. He never told us to let our enemies walk over us. Our ancestors never would have put up with this kind of stuff. They never would have done it. And our enemies, they understand that as well. That's why the brainwashing of religion, the brainwashing of Christianity was implemented. Again, to keep you in a state of, what's the word? I want to say nauseous. I can't. To keep you thinking about a time to come. Nostalgic. I can't wait. I can't wait. Interestingly enough, when Yahushua, when the followers asked him how to pray, we know it as the Lord's Prayer. What he said, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Have you considered what he means by in earth? Our book says in the kingdom of heaven, there was violence, and the violence took it by force. So if there's violence going on there and the heavenly hosts are fighting up there, Michael and his angels against Satan and his angels, what make you believe that you're not supposed to be fighting down here? Who told you that? Who told you that? I know who told all of us that. Our oppressors. Love your enemies. Pray for those who spitefully use you. Do good to them who are wicked to you. We know all of that rhetoric, that lying, deceitful rhetoric to emasculate us. Because the whole time our oppressors, I'm talking about the so-called European and their religion, were oppressing us with that foolishness, they were using violence against us. They whipped us, beat us, sold us, murdered us, raped us. Interestingly enough, they came with a cross in their hand and a little gay man on that cross telling you in that man who looked just like them, all power was given. Therefore, you heathens, you bow down and you worship him and you kiss his feet or we'll slaughter you. And they went all over the flat earth doing exactly that. That's why you can find Catholicism anywhere you go on this flat earth. And many of our people are still disillusioned with that lying doctrine of the devil that just pray. Don't do nothing, just pray. Yet our book says that, faith without works is dead. So if you're praying but you're not doing anything to fight, then you're a fool. That's what the book is telling us. That's what James said. Faith without work is dead. What does that mean? I can believe and pray all I want, but if I don't exercise something to protect and defend, which is the first purpose of any man, protect and provide. He said, if I'm not willing to do that, then I'm not qualified to enter to the kingdom of heaven. Because the fearful are not going. The unbelievers are not going. I think some of you guys need to be praying, yes, Elohim, I believe, but please help my unbelief. Because obviously if you think that this is just a one-sided thing where they get to walk over us, poop on us, pee on us, beat us, shoot our elderly mothers and fathers down, and all we're supposed to do is cry out and do nothing, you are an idiot. Respectfully. What I mean by that, you need to grow. You need to learn. You're ignorant. And if you refuse the truth, then you're an ignorant idiot. It's one thing to be ignorant. It's a whole different thing to be an idiot. And the enemy of ours target our women. They target our women to emasculate us. They target them. And many of you brothers, you're so, disillusioned that you don't realize that in every other ethnic group out there, the men are the leaders, except for our group, except for in Israel. We're the only ethnic group out there where the women are in charge, or the women are encouraged to be in charge. We're the only group out here where men will literally bow down and kiss our women's buttocks to coexist with them. What did the book say? Woe unto them who make, the head the tail and the tail the head. You sisters, you know the word. Does the word not say that your man would rule over you? That's a question. Is that not written in your book, in our book, sisters? Oh, yeah, but that's all. I don't believe in that. I know you don't. Thank goodness it's not up to you to decide how that works out. That's Yah's word, and you can't change it. Matter of fact, according to our book, if you change it, Yah has a special place in hell. If you add to this, let me be clear. Yah has a special place in hell for you. And for all of the brothers out there who are going to speak out against me for saying what I'm saying, there's a bigger place in hell for you. After all, did not Isaiah say hell has enlarged itself? Go back and read Isaiah chapter 5. Why did hell have to enlarge itself? When hell was set aside for Satan and his seed. And now Elohim, through Isaiah, said, no, it had to enlarge itself. You know why? Because a bunch of rebellious women of Israel and a bunch of rebellious men of Israel will buy a first-class ticket to enter in. Yahushua said it better than I can articulate it. What do you say? Wide is the path, and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction. And there'll be many there who will go that way. Many. And he was preaching that to Israel at the time, just so you know. But the book clearly states that it is your man's responsibility to lead, direct, and avenge you. I know you're going to say, no, let's wait on Jesus. Do you remember what happened when Diana, one of our aunties, was kidnapped by heathens, by a heathen king, raped, and kept captive? Do you remember that story? Go back and read Genesis. Go back and read Jasher. You remember that story, my sisters? And you brothers? Who believe no, vengeance is the Lord. He's going to repay. Yeah, in the end, he's going to repay them. But right here, right now, that's our job to fight back. Yeah, judgment, he's going to deal with them. But right now, amongst the living, while this earth is still here, when our book says not one dot, a tittle of the law is gone, it's going to go away before heaven and earth is destroyed, while amongst here right now, the living, it is our responsibility to avenge ourselves of our enemies with the guidance of Elohim. Because if you remember what happened, those brothers, Simeon, Reuben, and the other brothers, those who were old enough and who were skilled in war, they went and they got their sister back and they slaughtered that king and all of the men in that under his kingdomship. That's the book. They didn't take it on the chin. They didn't turn the other cheek. They didn't say, oh, y'all, go get Diana back, please, because, oh, we just so tired. We're so tired. Oh, no. Because they had courage. They had the wisdom and the understanding that that was their responsibility. David. You remember when his women and his followers, his men, their women were kidnapped and taken? Go back and read 1 Samuel chapter 30. Their whole camps were ravished by the enemy. The men were so upset. The followers of King David wanted to kill King David. They blamed him. In other words, they were like, you are incompetent as a leader because you should have had the hindsight to understand that if we left our women and children unprotected and the elderly unprotected, that the enemy would come in. You know what David did? The book says that he went before Elohim and he encouraged himself in the Lord. You know what that word encourage means? He went before Elohim, he prayed, but this was his prayer. Yah, can I go get my stuff back? Can I go avenge my children, my wives? Can my men come with me to avenge ourselves of what the enemy has done? That was his prayer. Not, oh, Yah, send them back. Oh, Yah, kill them wherever they are. Find them and kill them. No, that's not what happened. The book says in 1 Samuel that Elohim was so pleased with David. He said, yes, David, yes. I am pleased that you understand, David, that I can deliver through few and I can deliver through many. So yes, go get them. And David and his men, they went and avenged themselves. And they got their women back, their possessions back, and even what the enemies had, even the enemy's good, they were brought back home. Again, this is in our book. I suspect the reason why they try to tell you that the Torah and the scriptures were done away with because they don't want you to know that. And a lot of you praying brothers and praying sisters who do nothing but pray and wait are the same brothers and the same sisters who are saying you have to keep the commandments and you have to obey the Torah. Well, these things are written in the Torah and in the scriptures that I'm speaking about. So why aren't we rallying up the troops as David did? Why aren't we rallying up the troops as the sons of Israel did? We calling ourselves Israelites like them, the children of them. Why aren't we doing what our forefathers did when their enemies came in and oppressed them? Why was it important for them to take the initiative and fight back? But yet somehow or another we believe that we could just sit back and do nothing and just pray and hope for a better day. Why? This little wicked 18-year-old devil killed elderly women, 86-year-old, 72-year-old, 67-year-old, 62-year-old. Most of the people that devil slaughtered were people that we would consider in a protected class, 50 and beyond. He targeted the elderly amongst us. And one of his kind, who he thought was one of our kind, and I'm clear here, we're not them and they are not us. I am not a devil. You might be. If you're claiming them as your kind, then you're one of them and you are a devil. You're a heathen, just like them. Our book said 2/3 of Israel will be destroyed. It's written in the book. I want to say Zechariah will tell you all about that. It's there. But I am not a heathen. I am not one of them. But what that heathen did, he went right in there, he slaughtered our elderly people, and when he saw one of his kind, he clearly stated, oh, I'm not here to harm you. I'm sorry. My bad. And went on, and then he ran and tracked our people down like they were animals. Deer. And he just shot them down. Cold blood, vicious. And had the audacity to write a manifesto the day before saying that's exactly what his plans and his intentions were. And he was glad he did it. And then when his kind, or those who are, ordained of his kind, talking about the so-called former slave patrol, now called police officers, when they came, they didn't shoot him down. They didn't give him excuse my language, an ass whooping for the century. No. And he killed a police officer, or at least a former police officer. No, they just let him put down his weapon and, and handcuff him and, took him on to jail. And if you go back and read his manifesto, he's clear that, he will die if he had to, but he didn't really necessarily want to die. He just wanted to make sure that, them there, so-called blacks understood clearly that they're the equivalent in his mind of an immigrant. He's tired of them having too many babies and having all these babies because Yah has cursed them and they can't have many. And so his resolution is to kill them. Matter of fact, on his assault weapon, here's your reparations, nigger. And yeah, it's an awful thing. It's a wicked and a beastly, vicious, dirty. I don't even have the words to express my anger about it. I'm sure I'm as angry as David men were when their families were taken at Ziklag. I'm sure they felt just like I feel. Like maybe many of you feel, even those of you who are out there praying. I'm not addressing you because you're prayerful. I'm addressing you because you think that that's all it's going to take. And then you say little subtle things like, don't go out there and do nothing crazy, y'all. Don't go out there and act a fool, y'all. You're repeating the same dogma that our enemies had our women 100 years ago, 200 years ago, saying to their sons and to their men, look, just don't say nothing. I know Master, he assaulted my body, but we need to live. We need to wait. What's that old spiritual and go down, Moses, way down in Egypt land, tell old Pharaoh, white man, to let my people go. As beautiful as that song may sound, that's the sound of the oppressed who can't do anything on their own behalf to liberate themselves. This is not that. We're in 2022, not 1822. Hell, not even 1922. Our people know exactly how to avenge themselves. We see them do that in these inner cities every day to one another. The only time we don't do vengeance or we cry out against vengeance is when the enemy comes in and does something to us. But if it's one of us, male or female, I might say, and there's some type of conflict between us, how often does it end in one of us, if not both, or many of us being, murdered by one another? But when it comes down to protecting the elderly, protecting our communities, protecting the women against the enemy, somehow or another we get spiritual real fast. Then we just want to pray. Let's just pray. What did Malcolm X tell us? He said, you need to stop praying and start swinging. Even though he was, lost in Islam, he was right in the truth. That old saying, a broken clock is right twice a day. He had that right. When our men sit there and do nothing, when something happens to their women and their children and their brethren, and we do nothing, I'm telling you, there's a special place in judgment, at judgment for them. And for you sisters, you daughters of Zion, who are out there, using that Willie Lynch mentality, go back and read the Willie Lynch letter and see the psychology behind having the black women control the black men by teaching the black men to be docile, or else they might die. Again, why is it every other ethnic group out there who are willing to put their lives down on the line for their people except for Israel? No wonder the enemy thinks twice about attacking them. No wonder America is thinking twice, 3 times before attacking China or attacking Russia or doing anything to truly piss those two nations off. Because you know why? Because they realize if they do, there's going to be consequences. You think that Russia built up its military because it just wanted to show how strong they were? China built up its military to show their strength? You think that was their rationale? Well, let me peep you into some truth here. They built their militaries up because they wanted to send a clear message to the United States: we're not taking your shit anymore. They get it. The enemy, the heathens get it. What's going on with Israel? Why does every other ethnic group out there understand that their first responsibility is to protect their own kind and to avenge them and put up a wall of defense so that their enemies know, hey, look, like Joshua said, do you come, are you a friend or are you a foe? You remember when Joshua confronted that angel? He walked right up there to him. He had his sword in his hand. He asked that angel. He didn't know it was an angel. It looked like a man. He said, are you friend or foe? What that simply meant that if you are a foe, we're going to fight. These wicked devils have long ago made us the target of their viciousness. And if you think the Buffalo situation is an isolated incident or an anomaly or a conspiracy or whatever, you are sadly mistaken, sister. Brother, you are sadly mistaken. I have said this, God has put this on my heart many times. I have done many messages from Dalen Roof, whatever that little wicked other baby devil was. He ain't no damn baby. I've been talking about this for years, that they're going to keep doing it and keep doing it until we give them a reason to stop. And I'm going to say this to you with all humbleness, and Yah is my witness. Prayer by itself is not going to be enough to stop them devils. Does not our book say him that live by the sword shall die by the sword? Yeah, but that means that y'all going to get him. No, it doesn't. I'm just giving you examples how we picked up the sword. Gideon, another perfect example. Gideon, y'all remember Gideon? Gideon with 300 men delivered our people from the Midianites by blowing trumpets and breaking vase. But before they became 300, they were 200,000. And Yah had to wean the cowards out from among them, the cowards. There are too many of our Israelite men who are flat out cowards, and too many of our Israelite sisters who are equally cowards. They don't want to fight back. They don't want to stand up against the enemy. Oh, I'm sorry. Unless it's just in a very docile, Christianized kind of way. But let us not study the book or the Torah or the scriptures. Let us not use that as a roadmap how we should respond when the enemy attacks us. We don't want to use this. We want to go over to those epistle letters, because then they allow us to be able to do absolutely nothing and be able to maintain our comfortability at whatever level it is. Now, after all, if we go avenge it, maybe the Klan gonna come and burn my house down. Well, it seems like me, the Klan coming whether you avenge them or not. Whether you avenge yourselves or not, they're coming. But have you ever considered that the whole Haiti revolution, you know, Haiti, the country of Haiti, have you ever considered the whole reason that Haiti stayed independent is because the people rose up against their enemies? They rose up against the French. It made the French understand clearly, you might rule the world, but you ain't ruling Haiti. And after that, there were no more French revolutions going on in Haiti. There was no more French colonization going on in Haiti. I don't know. Maybe the Haitians read the book. But my biggest concern is why we as the people, the most blessed people on this earth, according to the word, are the most oppressed people on the earth. As flat as it is. I'm going to tell you why. Because there are tares among the wheat. There are tares amongst the wheat. There are operatives working amongst our people in these churches, on a lot of these youth, on these platform channels, across the street, in the neighborhood. There are a lot of counter agents amongst us, tares amongst the wheat. And what do? They use the Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons and all the rest of these devils to come out there and tell you, oh no, it ain't about what you think it's about. Yeah, there's blood in the street and it's your blood being spilled. But it ain't that. You gotta wait. You gotta let the law take its course. What law? The law that never applied to us? That law you're talking about, Sharpton, Trader, Bryant, Jakes? What law are you talking about? And I can call out a few other names here, but it ain't about name calling. It's just about identifying the enemy. More importantly, the message of the enemy. And the message of the enemy is do nothing. Just pray. While they beat our skulls into the earth, ravage our people, slaughter our people wherever we go. We just wait and pray. Just crying like, it's Yeshua wept. I have no issue with sadness and weeping that goes along with it. But the same Yeshua who wept, the same it's not Yeshua, Yahushua that wept, the same one. I'm not talking about that white devil on the cross called Jesus or black Jesus or whatever hell Jesus some of y'all still praying to. I'm talking about Yahushua, the Messiah, the bold one, the one who turned over tables. I'm talking about that Yahushua. I'm talking about the one who got a bull whip out and whipped people out of the synagogue, out of the temple. I'm talking about that Yahushua. Him, that one, who understood vengeance, who understood how to take the initiative, how to rid the people of wickedness. Him. He was a praying man, but he was also a man of war. Oh, yes, he was. Well, we don't have to debate that. Let's go to Luke chapter 22. And you tell me if this is a misquote or not. Luke, the Basura Luke chapter 22. You tell me if I'm misinterpreting what he says here. And he said, I tell you, Peter. Luke 22:34. And he said, I tell you, Peter. I tell you what, Peter. The chicken or the rooster shall not crow this day before you shall not 3 times deny me. Boy, that sure sounds like Israel. Then he said unto him, but now he that has he said, but unto him, then said he unto them, talking about his followers. But now he that has a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that has no sword, in other words, he that has no weapon, let him sell his garment, his clothing, and buy one. Buy what? What does he mean by buy one? Is that the word buy is the same word? Is that the equivalent of the word pray? For defense? Pray for vengeance? Or is he telling Peter and all of those who are following him, the time will come that you need to have a sword, a weapon. And if you don't have one, go buy one. Go get you one. Now this is Yahushua talking here. So don't tell me that your brother is giving the wrong information here. No, I'm giving the right information here. But there are way far too many cowards under the guise of Christianity, Hebrew Israelites, whatever you're calling yourself. Far too many cowards, male and female, who running around acting as though this isn't written in the book. That somehow or another Yahushua was impotent. That he just laid around and just took a whipping. And there was nothing inside of him that was a fighting spirit. I'm not talking about prayerful. I'm talking about, what David said. When David prayed to Yahuwah. I'm talking about that kind of fighting spirit. You don't think Yahushua understood that? He was the son of David. The son of Abraham. The tribe of Judah. Matter of fact, he is the Lion of Judah. You can call that David too. Amen. But let's see what Yahushua said. Yahushua told us to arm ourselves. Or except if we didn't, then no flesh would be saved. And we can see what's going on. He didn't tell Peter that the time will come for you to pray. He told Peter know the time will come. And all of those followers who were listening to him on that particular day, that a time is going to come. You got to arm yourself. You're going to have to fight back. But what did David say? Did King David? We already talked about what happened at Ziklag. But again, if you really want to validate what your brother is saying, you need to use the precept, brothers and sisters. Go back again and read in Genesis where the sons of Israel went out and liberated their daughter and took vengeance. Come back and read, with David and his men, when their things were taken from them, how they took vengeance. When Lot was taken as a captive, and Abraham took his soldiers and went and got him back and took vengeance. 1 second here. And took vengeance. But let's go see what David had to say. All right? Let's go to Psalms 144. Psalms. And again, I'm going to say to you, my brothers and my sisters, there was a reason why they told us that the Old Testament or the Torah was done away with. But somehow they forgot to tell us Well, they didn't have to tell us, or they didn't forget to tell us, but they didn't bring it up. That Yahushua said that heaven and earth would pass away before one jot or tittle of the Torah, or the so-called law, would be done away with. He said heaven and earth would be done. This world would have ended before this word become none and void. Talking about the Torah, the scriptures. Psalms 144. Verse 1. This is how it reads. Blessed be Yahuwah, my strength. Oh, all right. Oh. Blessed be Yahuwah, my strength, which teaches my hands. That's not what it reads. He didn't say, blessed be Yahuwah, my strength, who teaches my hand to pray. That's not what he said. David said, blessed be Yahuwah, my strength, which teaches my hands to war and my fingers to fight. Fight for what? Why did our forefather understand the importance of learning to protect his kind, our people? And we know David was a warrior. You remember, when he came back from the first battle with Saul, and they said Saul killed his 1,000 and David killed his tens of thousands. What happened to you, brother? What I saw the other day, and I'm not done here, what I saw the other day was after the crime had been committed in Buffalo, I saw a lot of Israelite men standing around, looking at the scene of the crime. But I noticed in all of them, not one of them were ready for war. Although a serious crime had happened to him. This guy drove 200 miles to how you say, I'm going to use peek us out, to survey us, survey our people, and then slaughter them. Elderly, grandmothers, grandfathers, uncles, aunts. And our men just stood there, that same evening just looking. Now let me say something here, and I'm going to get to the end of this fast enough. Y'all willing? Many of our people are familiar with the story of Black Wall Street, Greenwood, Oklahoma, Tulsa. That devil Biden and that group just recently went down there and did some little tokenism, recognition. No reparations, though. Let's just, how it is. When you come down to the Israelite, don't give them nothing but just good word, because, they're praying people. They don't need nothing. Just encourage them to keep on praying. So we can keep on stealing and killing and destroying. We meaning them. But here's something about that story you may or may not recall or have knowledge of. The night before the burning of Greenwood, Oklahoma, you know what happened? Many of our men went to the jailhouse where the young man who had been arrested earlier that day was being held. Our men went there because there was a rumor going around that a lynch mob was going to come in there that night and take him and hang him for what our men felt to believe was false accusations. So they were there to protect him. What a novel idea that is. Wow. We understood in 1921 the importance of coming together as a people to protect our kind. But somehow now in 2022, that's just too much. That's just way too much. Let Jesus do it. After all, let Yahuwah take care of it. Just call on the name of Yah, and he'll avenge us. But here's what happened that night. When the heathens came to that jailhouse, probably to grab him out of there and hang him. An argument pursued between our men and Satan's seed, these white men. And one of our brothers shot and killed one of them. The rest of them, you know what they did? They scattered. They left. Our men left, and the heathens left. It's funny when they realize that you're willing to go all in. they think twice before they do anything. But the heathens left, and they came back to the scene of the crime, just like you saw our men doing and women in Buffalo Saturday. But there was one difference between what the heathens were doing versus what our men did. You know what those heathens when they came back to the scene of the crime, you know what they came back with? They were armed to the teeth. They were prepared. They were ready. They had weapons galore. And you know what they did? They avenged themselves. Now, am I, advocating on behalf of what they did to Greenwood? If I was advocating for them, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about the importance of us going beyond just prayer. Yeah, pray and ask for permission and then go. But what I'm saying to you, that even the heathens understand the importance of, avenging themselves. America avenges itself all over the world. Always has. But when it comes down to us, they send these agents amongst us in these churches and synagogues and mosques and wherever they are, YouTube platforms included, and they tell us, just wait, just pray and wait and cry. Just pray, just wait and cry. Y'all gonna take care of it. Well, don't you think by now, after 400 years of this oppression, if y'all was just waiting, if y'all were gonna handle it without our participation, he would have long ago done that? At what point are we going to wake up and recognize y'all saying, no, y'all go first, and I will be with you? And by the way, those heathens, when they went into Greenwood, they knew that our men were armed because our men were armed in front of that jailhouse. But they didn't let that stop them. They love their people more than they love their own lives. And what's the excuse for us? Oh, you're just going to get slaughtered. Oh, this and that, all of that. And there's one certainty that I'm very certain about. As a matter of fact, let me tell you about that one certainty, but I want to share this with you. I just read Psalms 144 to you, verse 1, about Elohim teaching us to avenge ourselves. What David is talking about. But let's go to Psalms 18. Psalms. Let's go to verse 34. Here's again David speaking. He teaches my hands to war, so that a bow of steel is broken by my arms. You know what that means? So all you guys who want to get out there and work on your muscles and you could be, buff and all of that to show out and show up for these, so the females can like you, or in some cases, a lot of these brothers are going both ways, or only one way, the way to hell, y'all know what I'm about to say, But anyway, all beefed up and built up for what? Here David is saying, give me the strength. Give me so much strength that I can bend a steel bow. I can bend it with my own hands. In other words, prepare me to war. Get me in condition. Get me physically in condition. For all you overweight Israelite women and men. Oh, y'all don't care nothing about my flesh. Well, it seems that here he does. Why do you think we have dietary laws? Some of you brothers out there, even if you had the will to fight, you don't have no win. Y'all know what we mean by win. In other words, you're going to get tired real fast. Only time your overweight behind because you don't care about your health, seem to be having some endurance, is when it comes time to getting in the sack. And you know what I mean by that, respectfully. Otherwise, you want to sit around there and eat all these diabolical, abominable foods and then complain about why your pressure is high. And why you have a bad heart, or diabetes, or a bad liver. And why you need to go take the jab so that you don't die before your time. But here David is saying, no, we have to be ready to war. Am I saying that we're supposed to go out and be like the demons and attack innocent people and attack our... No, that is not what I'm saying. I'm going to be crystal clear here. I'm not talking about harming anybody. I'm talking about defending ourselves. And I'm talking about sending a message to our offenders that if you touch one of us, we're going to touch one of yours. You come in our community intentionally and you slaughter our mothers and our grandmothers, our grandfathers, then expect us to visit yours. You know, the Mexicans get that. The Asians get it. The triad. You're going to mess with elderly Asian women and men. And see now that the Asian triad is back over there knocking on your door. You go over there and you mess with these Mexicans. And you're going to see if the essays don't come in there, low riders knocking on your door. Try it. See what's going to happen. Do it to the European. You already know what they're going to do. They got a history of what they will do. Think Gabriel Prosser. Think Denmark Vesey. Think Nat Turner. All revolutionary men who wanted to break the bonds of slavery from their people. When these men were captured and killed, our enslavers and those who were, even if they didn't have slaves, those who were in their communities, they went into wherever our people were and they slaughtered men, women, and children. And you know why they did? Not because they were a part of the uprising. They wanted to send a clear message to our people that if y'all try to uprise again, or y'all harm any one of us, y'all take one of ours out, we're going to take 100 of yours out. Avenging themselves. So what your brother's talking about is not some novel idea, some radical idea, some wicked or evil agenda. I'm talking self-preservation here as a nation of people. And I'm saying to you, prayer in and of itself ain't going to get it. It's not going to get it, sisters and brothers. And you daughters of Zion out there, we love you. Well, some of us love you. Some of us love everything but you. But those of us who love you, we need your support. We need you to really have true accountability for us. What does that mean, DFG? That means you should be saying, honey, my man, master, whatever you're going to call him, husband, whatever you're calling him, love, are you ready to defend us? If something happens to one of us, will you go after, those criminals, those violators? Will you not allow us to just be slaughtered and abused in vain? Sister, that's what, if you're going to pray, that's what we ought to be praying, sisters and brothers. Teach my fingers to fight and my hands to war. Teach me to do this. Encourage me to do it when it's necessary so that we can keep the enemy at bay. I know, DFG, but man, taking a life is wrong. That's wrong, DFG. You're sending the wrong message, DFG. Am I? Who was the wisest man other than Yahushua that ever walked this earth? According to Yahushua. Who was he? Where was he from? He was from the tribe of Judah, His name was Solomon, to help you out. Well, let's see if he had any thoughts about this. Amen. Can you go to Ecclesiastes? I'm sorry. Chapter 12. I'm sorry, chapter 3. Can you go with me to chapter 3, verse 1? Well, let's look at, go to chapter 1 in Ecclesiastes and look at verse 1. Just so you know who's doing the talking right now, or who I'm quoting. The words of the preacher. Ooh, praise God. The words of the preacher. Now, when the last time we heard, okay, mark that. Just mark that. We're going to come back to that, okay? I don't want to get ahead of myself. This is a preacher man, a preacher woman. This is a praying man, a praying woman. Okay? This is who this is. So let's see what the preacher said. Let's see what Elohim's preacher had to say. The words of the preacher, the son of David, king in Jerusalem. Now let's skip over to chapter 3. To everything there is a season. Everything under the sun on this flat earth. Everything there's a season. There's a time. There is a time. What I'm talking about, there is a time. This is the time. There is a time to be born, although they're fighting so hard to make sure our babies continue to die in these damn butcher centers called abortion clinics. They're advocating very, very hard to make sure our babies don't get born or are not born. But that's not today's message. But that's the truth. By the way, that's what that young devil said, that his kind birth rates are down and our kind birth rates are up, and they can't have that. Did you ever wonder that your government, your democratic government, all of your democratic legislators, have you ever considered that the reason why they are so pro-choice is because they're anti-you, Israel? Have you ever considered that? I mean, we heard Jeff Bezos' wife $275 million to support the the disadvantaged Israelite women. She said black women. We want to give $250 million of our money to make sure that they can have their abortions. That's what she said. Have you ever considered that they're no different than that white devil went in there and murdered the living? Because these ones are saying that those are unborn are not alive. That's not a life. Although there's not a living person that did not start that same way. Solomon said, our preacher said it's a time to be born. And a time to die. A time to plant. Time to harvest that which you planted. But here's the one I wanted. Then he says there's a time to kill. Verse 3. Then he goes over verse 4 and says it's a time to cry. He says a time to laugh. A time to dance. So we don't call out on Yahuwah when we want to dance. We don't go praying when we want to dance. We just dance. But somehow when it comes down to avenge ourselves, oh, let's not do that. Let's not do that. Why don't we just listen to our preacher? The preacher just told us there's a time to avenge yourself. He said it. I don't want to keep using the word because they'll just, claim that I'm doing something in violation because they don't want you to hear this kind of truth. But you can read Ecclesiastes chapter 3 in your Bible, in your cipher. Read it for yourself. Read chapter 3, verse 3 for yourself. If you think that your brother is, if I'm off course here. As many of us are being lied to and told that I am. Brothers and sisters, aren't you tired of this? I'm tired of it. Exactly how much more crying do you think that Elohim is asking us to do? Crying to him, crying to him, crying to him. And yet we do nothing to avenge ourselves. We just want him to do all the heavy lifting while we just sit somewhere, and just patiently do absolutely nothing and call ourselves the faithful of Elohim. When Elohim very well could be saying, no, you're the cowardly. You're the cowardly amongst men. Because I told you I would be with you. That I would never forsake you. Remember what he told our ancestors when they were in the wilderness? When he told them to go to the land of Canaan? To take possession of the land that our enemies had that was rightfully ours? The land of milk and honey? Remember that he told them, look, when you go amongst your enemies, I'm going to go with you. Did he not say that to them? But what did they do? They, instead of them going boldly, they took 12 of our brethren. He said, no, y'all go check it out first because, we need to make sure. And because of their doubt, what happened? Well, everything that he promises there, but at the end of the day, they're giants and we're like ants before them. Let us return back to Egypt. Let us go back to prayer. Let's fall back on our knees. Let us go back into bondage. Because after all, we can't beat them. When Elohim promised them that he would go with them, they just had to remain faithful. And with the exception of Caleb and Joshua, all the rest of our people decided to just go in rebellion. Cowardly. Oh, no. I know that he says that, we had to go there and we had to take that from them, but I'm afraid. I might get killed using that word. But we have no problem, again, shooting each other down in these streets, male and female. When it comes down to avenging ourselves in these streets, in these urban cities, we have no problem with that. And guess what? The rest of the country has no problem with it. But when it comes down to saying, we're not going to have you, murdering our moms and our aunts and our uncles and our elderly, those who can't defend themselves, killing our babies who are innocent, who can't defend themselves, we ain't having that. Then all of a sudden everybody just say, nah, we just going to pray about that. The ultimate betrayal of yourself, of your people, and Elohim. I want him to show himself strong in my life. Well, you're never going to know if you're afraid to fight for yourself, brothers and sisters. You'll never know. If you're afraid to pick up your sword, then you'll die by the sword. And I say this again to my people. I say this because I'm instructed to say it. What did Isaiah say? And we bring this particular hardcore truth, uncompromising truth. Isaiah 58, cry aloud, spare not. Isaiah 58, lift up your voice like a shofar, and show my people their transgressions, and the house of Jacob their sins. Yet they seek me daily, and delight to know my ways as a nation that did righteousness, and not forsook my laws or my ordinances. They ask of me the ordinance of justice. They take a delight in approaching me. And then we are fast, but you are not responding. We've afflicted our souls, but you don't seem to notice, Elohim. And he said, behold, in the day of your fast, you find pleasure to exact all of your labors. Behold, you fast for strife and debate. and to smite with the fist of wickedness. You shall not fast as you do this day, but to make your voice to be heard on high. Is this the fast I've chosen? For man to afflict his soul, or to bow his head down as bulrush, or to spread sackcloth and ashes under him? Will you call this a fast and an acceptable day of Yahuwah? Is not this the fast I have chosen? Question. To loose the bands of the wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and let the oppressed people go free, and to break every yoke? Is it not to deal your bread to the hungry, and to bring the poor that are cast out of your house? When you see the naked, that you should cover him, and that you should hide not yourself from your own flesh? Then shall you break forth as the morning, and your health shall spring forth speedily, and your righteousness shall go before you, and the glory of Yahuwah shall be your reward. Your reward is the way it says. In other words, I will be behind you. He said, we're fasting for the wrong thing. We're praying about the wrong things. We're supposed to fight back. We're supposed to be bold and courageous as a people. Not cowardly. That's unrighteousness when you don't stand up for your people. When you let the enemy just come in and mass slaughter us. That's the ultimate wickedness. Our book says the fearful, Revelation 21:8, are not going to inherit the kingdom of Elohim. The fearful will have their part in the lake of fire. The fearful. If the fearful is going into the fire, then what's going to happen to the bold among us? Common sense should tell you that. The bold of us are going to inherit the kingdom, as though we were, as Joshua and Caleb were bold. David was bold. Abraham was bold. The sons of Israel were bold when they went to get their sister and get vengeance for the assaulting of their sister. These were bold men. Gideon was bold. He got rid of all those cowards that were with Gideon and got down to 300 bold men who were willing to fight back. Yeah, cry out, but then take action. Last but not the least, let's go to the law. Let's see what the law says, the Torah. For all of you people, again, out there who are saying, oh, we keep the Torah, we believe in the Torah. The Torah is the word of Elohim. Where the Torah is where righteousness lies. So, because if you're saying that to protect ourselves and avenge ourselves is unrighteousness, but you're saying you believe that the Torah is the true word of Elohim, then here's something I want you to explain, and here is something I want you to contemplate. Amen? The book of Exodus, chapter 21, verse 23. This is how it reads. And I want you to take this in consideration of everything else your brother has shared with you on this day. Don't take this as a separate. This is all to bring it all back together. If there's any mischief, you know what mischief is? Wickedness. Then you shall do a life for a life. An eye for an eye. A tooth for a tooth. A hand for a hand. A foot for a foot. A burning for a burning. A wound for a wound. And a strife for a strife. Who should do this? Let's read this again. If any mischief shall follow, then you, us, we, Israel, you, not Yahuwah, we're, y'all, us, we are to do this. He said, a life for a life, eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a hand for a hand, a foot for a foot, a burning for a burning, a wound for a wound, and a stripe for a stripe. That's all I got to say about this. Now, y'all do what y'all want to do. Y'all keep on sitting on the sideline letting it happen to us and not saying anything and crying out, to your Jesus or to whoever it is you're crying out to. Or you can go before the Most High like David did, encourage yourself, and then go out there and get your stuff back. That's the choice we all are confronted with this day. And if we're going to sit out here cowardly and just wait for these devils in their judicial system that they clearly have shown time and time again does not apply to us equally, if that's your plan, then you need to understand this clearly. Get the movie that it says, but I'll quote the quote, then many of your people will die. I ain't good with that. What says you? DFG, get in flight, share the message, consider it. Remember Isaiah 1, he said the ox knows its owner, the ass knows its master. But he said Israel don't know who they are because they don't know the law. They don't study the law. They'd rather be over there, in the slave narrative of our book. He said our people don't know who they are, and they won't even consider when they're the greatest thing, the greatest creation of all the creations, of the one and only Elohim, the apple of his eye. And all they think they're supposed to do is cry. How sad. DFG, talk to you later. Bye now.